Hey, what's going on, YouTube? Y'all know it's been a while since I've done one of these panel discussions. I've been busy. Everybody's been busy, but I've just been hella busy, working almost 7 days a week every day. But this whole Kenneka Jenkins thing and the way it has transfixed Black America, at least online, I had to make a three-way panel about this. I had to come back for you guys one more again. So on tonight's panel, which is titled The Kenneka Jenkins Story and Why It Has Transfixed Black America. We have Mr. Roosevelt, who you guys know I've done several three-way panel discussions with. Good brother from Chicago, my hometown of Chicago, Illinois. And of course, the California Kid, one of the original three-way panel discussion members all the way back at the beginning of last year. JD is going to be joining me today for this very, very special panel discussion where we're not only going to discuss this case, but we're going to discuss the hypocrisy around it and, really, how it really kind of, it transcends into what is wrong with Black America as a whole, not just regarding this case, but how we keep believing lies and allowing ourselves to be led astray, by fiction. We would rather believe fiction than truth, and I said that several times in my videos. We would rather believe the lie than accept the truth. So we're going to get started here right quick. Question number one, guys, let me see. I'll start with Justin. Question number one. For the last week, the Black sector of social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, has been transfixed on the tragic circumstances surrounding the death of a 19-year-old Chicago girl named Kenneka Jenkins, found inside of a industrial freezer at a hotel in Rosemont, Illinois, suburban Chicago, for those of y'all who don't know. The working assumption for most is that she was set up by her friends, murdered, and then placed into the freezer to cover it up, even though there is no evidence beyond a reasonable doubt to support this according to authorities investigating the issue. Given what we know, what do you think is the most likely scenario of what happened to Kenneka Jenkins? Justin.
Well, after seeing that video of her staggering the intoxicated man, I can't really theorize any. Probably went into the freezer by her own accord. Tommy, I think you know what I'm talking about. Tommy, he did a video on the case, and he related his own experiences with being intoxicated, and he mentioned how when he was drunk at one point, he had actually passed out in front of one of his friends' house, and citing that as proof of how a person just does things that they normally wouldn't do,
right.
Such as walk to a freezer while they're intoxicated. And I'm a person who hasn't been intoxicated before, so it kind of influenced my viewpoint that she probably, in being in that space, was inclined to go and do that and take herself into the freezer.
Exactly. I mean, it's kind of funny because, like I said, I wrote these questions down for the panel, and this was all after the fact. But yeah, I mean, this was before the fact. But now that we see the video, it's pretty easy, I guess, to form a hypothesis about what may have really happened. But let me run over to Mr. Roosevelt and ask him specifically the same question here. Okay, so Mr. Roosevelt. So question number one. For the last week, the Black sector of social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, has been transfixed on the tragic circumstances surrounding the death of a 19-year-old Chicago girl named Kenneka Jenkins, found inside of an industrial freezer at a hotel in Rosemont, Illinois. The working assumption for most is that she was set up by her friends, murdered, and placed in the freezer to cover it up, even though there is no evidence beyond a reasonable doubt to support this, according to authorities investigating the issue. Given what we now know, what do you think is most likely the scenario of what happened to Kenneka Jenkins?
I kind of believe, now I haven't seen the video, but it's like, I know it's something just like what we had talked about, like before, we started the panel discussion. Everybody's tolerance to alcohol or drugs or whatever it is different. I mean, some people could take like 9 or 10 or something, but someone like myself, who really doesn't drink, I might not be able to take nothing but one and barely could take that. Because I remember one time being at a party like some years ago and getting like almost sloppy drunk off of like one cup of strawberry daiquiri. So that just goes to show you my tolerance level is low. And I believe, and I sometimes believe in something. Sometimes whenever a person has alcohol in their system, sometimes it could make you do things that you normally, would not do. And some people do think of something that she was set up by her friends, or they're thinking that maybe there's some deeper, darker conspiracies and stuff to go behind that. But I'm pretty sure we'll get into, more of that as we go on.
Right. Okay, is that your total thought about it?
Yeah, it's just that, like I said, that I did.
Hello? Hello? Justin, are you still
I talk to my godson about this stuff all the time. And, I just tell him to watch who he hangs around and watch what he does. And I think, more and more people would do that, especially with these hotel parties. Anything can happen. Because you're just around like any kind of a person. And, people, they'll almost do any kind of a thing. Whether it's something that you did that was stupid to walk into a freezer and end up, or whether you get set up. It's almost like anything can happen if you see. So I just say stay away from it altogether.
Right. Now, I do want to say there is one interesting dynamic of mystery left to this, and that is what he actually died of. Now, the video, to me, the video link that I texted you guys, and now the whole scene, I think pretty much solves how she wound up in the freezer. I mean, you see her clearly walking in, stumbling about through the hotel corridors, and then in the last video, you see her stumble into the empty kitchen. This is about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and anyone who has ever worked at a hotel or ever, been in a hotel knows that in most cases at that time of night, there's only going to be one staff member usually, unless the hotel is very, unless it's very high level, 5 stars or whatever, where they might have like 24/7 security. There's usually only going to be one employee there, and that's the hotel receptionist, maybe a hotel manager at most. But will they be watching the security cameras at that time of night? Unless there's some type of commotion going on, or unless they've been alerted by the police to be on the lookout for a fugitive or something, likely not. So she was likely stumbling about. Nobody saw her. The only thing that caught her were the cameras at that time of night. The hotel guests were in their rooms, asleep. There was probably only 1 or 2 people on staff, and she just wandered down into the lobby and found this area that they said was supposed to be off limits to hotel guests, and you can clearly see her walk into the kitchen, and then she disappears around the corner where they said the storage area was, including the freezer. So we know how she wound up in the kitchen. What is not known, and this is the only part where I could give all the stupid rumors that were spreading online any sort of credibility. There is a possibility now, just like you said, Mr. Roosevelt, about, warning your godson about who he hangs with, that somebody may have slipped, like, say, a date rape drug into one of her drinks to try to get her woozy so they could, try to have sex with her. That's a possibility. Now, the toxicology reports, sir.
I mean, of course, it is a possibility. That's how come I say, I tell my godson, stay away from, that kind of stuff. I mean, but of course, it's something, anytime I say that kind of thing, he always tells me, oh, boy, I'm glad I don't stay with you, because he knows his life as he knows it will be completely over. When I say this stuff, it's because he thinks I'm being a stick in the mud or, being too uptight and everything, but don't forget, us older people, we've already been down that road. These younger people are trying to travel. And we, even I can understand or whatever that, everybody like has done something or another and everything growing up. But right now, being my age, and even though you're younger than I am, even being your age, I'm pretty sure some of the stuff you did or I did, we might have done it or might not have thought nothing about it back then. But at least now we see the danger in what is out there. But the younger people don't know the danger as to what is out there. So if you got like a young person in your life who's doing these kind of things, it's something that needs to be told. Don't keep it to yourself.
Exactly. I tell you, it's pretty funny. I got drunk one time in my life. And when I say one time, I mean one time. Because as I've made it clear on my YouTube channel to my followers, I don't really fuck with a lot of people. And for good reason. This just kind of, emphasizes my point that people and problems start with the same letter for a reason. But I got drunk one time in my life. I even remember the name of the place. It was called Murphy's Pub. It was back when I was a student. I went out with some foreign exchange students that were in my boarding house, that I shared a boarding house with, and I figured I'd go out with them. I drank about 6 beers. I got drunk, and about 1:00 in the morning, after being there for, about 2 or 3 hours, something inside of me that's always been with me, just self-preservation, just self-consciousness, even, being intoxicated, said, get out of here. You need to leave. It is time to go. And I stumbled out of that bar, drunk, and on my way back to the house, while the kids I was with, the other students were still out partying and drinking and everything, I called my mom and I told her exactly what I did, where I was coming from, and where I was headed to. Even though I lived 140 miles away from home at that time, attending the University of Illinois, I knew that scene, after, I came back to my senses, after that night of drinking, I knew that scene of drinking and partying was not for me, and I never did it again. No adult had to tell me this. I was in my early 20s. Nobody had to tell me that this was not something that was for me. And I stayed away from that scene ever since then. But before we move on to the second question, I just want to finish by saying that, there is, I personally believe that when the toxicology reports come back in the next couple of weeks, we're going to find that this girl probably, more than likely, she died of alcohol poisoning, okay, from, ingesting, because what a lot of people don't realize is alcohol is actually toxic to the human system. They siphon it out to where only a very small amount of it is put in, like beer or liquor. That's why you don't see stuff. I think like gin and vodka are the strongest. They have the highest alcohol intake of any alcoholic beverage. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. But if you drink straight pure alcohol, like rubbing alcohol, your ass will die. A lot of people don't realize that. So some people's bodies can only take a small amount of that. Most people can drink and drink and drink. But see, it's just like a person with a bad heart that starts playing varsity sports in high school. Somebody's going to drop dead from a heart attack, but nobody knows who has that heart. But anyway, I was going to, Justin is back. I was going to go ahead and move on to the second question. Okay, so question number 2 regarding this. Let's start with Justin. This viral story has transcended far beyond the scope of what is to be expected from such a case. The fact is, black youth are killed in Chicago and across the country every single day. So even if a later investigation does determine that Kenneka was murdered, what makes this case any different or more special than the other 700 homicides in Chicago alone? What do you think, Mr. Justin?
I can't give you an answer. I really don't see why the media picks out a certain case, or rather the community, if you can call it that, chooses to focus on one incident while ignoring a overwhelming vast majority of these murders within inner cities across the U.S.
Exactly, and I feel the same way.
I wanted to kind of point out something.
Mm-hmm.
There's this, and you made a video about this, I think, last year. It was in relation to, I can't remember the exact topic, but there was, if you can recall, there was a Louisiana couple that got murdered, and there were plenty of tributes for the woman on Facebook, and you commented how there were no tributes for the guy.
Right.
So it might be in that same vein of there's this special privilege of memorialization that we put on the lives of females, and then some kind of gender disparity there.
Right. And I'm sorry. Were you finished? Exactly. I absolutely agree with you. And it's the crazy thing is there is a fact that I think the murder ratio in this country is 3-to-1 for men or males. Period. Males are murdered in this country and really around the world far more than females are. But when you look at the majority of tributes and memorials and stuff of that nature online and off, and these stories that go viral when someone becomes the victim of a homicide or a mysterious death, the majority of them are for females, and that goes across the board. That's not just with the black community. I mean, that goes across the board. I mean,
I don't think it's just a race thing. I agree.
Yeah. And I've seen so many different cases. You can go all the way back to the mid-90s, the John Benet Ramsey case. How many children, while that was very tragic, how many children are murdered, and sexually abused every single year? Both male and female. But they picked this one case because this girl is prettied up and being used by her parents, specifically her mother, as this little Barbie doll, not even being allowed to grow up. And they take that and they just smear it all over the headlines and blow it up bigger than it actually should have been, in proportion to the other murders of young children that age. So let me ask Mr. Roosevelt the same question. And him and myself happen to be natives of Chicago, so we can see the hypocrisy more than anybody else is following this case. Mr. Roosevelt, this viral story has transcended far beyond the scope of what is to be expected from such a case. The fact is, black youth are killed in Chicago and across the country every single day. So even if a later investigation does determine that Kenneka was murdered by, say, like possibly a date rape drug or something like that somebody slipped into her drink, what makes this case any different or more special than the other 700 homicides in Chicago alone?
Me, myself, I think, and I kind of agree with you, and I got to agree also with Justin, that I just believe, I believe that we should be in a society with everything and everyone, all races, all religions, all genders. It should be no difference in between black and white. It should be no difference in between male and female. But it seems like that I think this case got a whole lot of coverage because it was a female who was murdered. If it was me who walked into a place and was hanging up in the street, or you, no one would really care because it's just another man. but by it being a woman, I mean, come on now, with women, they can get, even if they're having a fight with their boyfriend, an argument, I mean, they'll take it more easier on a woman than they will a man. We got up or something, got in somebody's face and start cursing them out and stuff. They'd be ready to lay us out. But a woman, they'll give a little bit more of a leeway to, all because of the female. And we even see it even in prisons. Some of the laws and some of the rules And female persons are much more lax than they are in prisons that hold men.
Right.
And also, too, I also believe that this case got a whole lot of play, for lack of a better word, because a whole lot of people, they were looking at the conspiracy aspect of it.
Right.
Because it was a big conspiracy aspect of it, because they thought maybe a hotel employee, I think that's what they were looking at, who did something to her. And I think it's because of how the hotel was acting and Rosemont police, because they did not allow the family or the mother to view her body.
Mm-hmm.
And even when the family raised a stink and said to view her body or see her as she was, which they should have had a right to see. They escorted the family out of the hotel. If you want to see your loved one, if your loved one has been killed or something, they should let you see your loved one, because if they don't let you see your loved one, all of a sudden you're going to think that there's something more going on here that possibly they're trying to cover up. And so it's just for certain steps that the hotel took, certain steps that the Rosemont police took. I mean, it just makes the whole thing look bad.
Right.
That's what a whole lot of black activists were in front of the hotel protesting, because, like you said, it could be alcohol poisoning as to how that happened, or she could have been set up, or it could have been anything. But it's just how it appeared and how it looked because of the actions of the police and actions of the hotel and how it treated the family. Because if you're not doing anything, what's wrong with something that let the mother view the body in the freezer? What is wrong with something viewing the person? How come you got to wait a day or two or more in order for the family, in order to view the body like they requested? So it's something that you're covering up or about to cover up. So I think that's what everybody was looking at, the conspiracy aspect of it. Because if, nobody's talking and a whole lot of her friends were not even talking, you all of a sudden think something else more happened than what happened.
Right. I can see that. My only problem that comes into place in my mind with the way people were blowing up this story with all these theories and rumors is that nobody had any evidence behind what they were saying. The first thing, because I don't know how closely you followed the story, Mr. Roosevelt, but one of the first things that came out was this Facebook Live video of this black girl, for lack of a more wanting term, wearing this red wig and sunglasses. I don't know if you saw that video, and everybody was saying that you could hear.
Yeah, I saw that video.
And everybody kept saying.
And the girl in the video was, smoking weed and drinking. And there's some other guys with a cup in the background and all of it.
Right. Exactly. And everybody kept saying that you could hear Kenneka in the background screaming or moaning like something was happening to her, and then they turned the music on to muffle it out. My thing is, I listened to the video and I clearly could not hear anything but the music and the fools that were in the room partying, chatting whatever random stuff they were saying,
Well, I couldn't hear it either.
Right, exactly. And then they tried to use the reflector off of those ridiculous sunglasses that she was wearing to say that you could see Kenneka in the background laying motionless on the bed. Then they said you could see in the reflection the two niggas that raped her in the bathroom. But I said, wait, hold up. In the first video I released, there was a girl that took because the Facebook Live video was 6 minutes, 17 seconds. There was another girl in there that took the phone from the girl with the red wig on and sunglasses and went into the bathroom where people claimed Kenneka was being raped. And I knew it was the bathroom area because you could see clearly above the other girl's head that had the phone camera during the live stream about 5 minutes and 33 seconds into it, where you could see a shower curtain above her head in the background. So it was so much bullshit swirling around, and people were it's just like people do in the JFK conspiracy thing. Now, everybody has their belief system about how JFK was assassinated. but people, they want to believe, you know, that it's a conspiracy or that there's something more to it. And so then they just start imagining things and over-exaggerating things, and it makes matters worse. And a lot of people don't realize a lot of this conspiracy crap, people actually enjoy. They get off on it. You know what I'm saying? It's not, you know, after a while, it doesn't even become about the truth. It just becomes like this orgy of speculation. That's the best way I can, you know, explain it. It's just an orgy of speculation that, you know, everybody, yeah, ooh, look at that. Yeah. And then before you know it, the truth is lost in all of the bullshit, whether it's factual or not. So, anyway, before we move on to the third question, I did want to ask you this one thing, Mr. Roosevelt, one other thing. Because you, like me, we're from the Chicagoland area, and you're very familiar with the Chicagoland area. You know, like I know, that Rosemont is not necessarily close per se to Chicago proper. It's about 20 miles north of Chicago, near O'Hare Airport.
It's close to the O'Hare Airport. Matter of fact, if you Blue Line train, I'm pretty sure if you're from Chicago, you're familiar with the Blue Line train. Going to O'Hare, Rosemont is the stop right before you get to O'Hare Airport, and you walk like one block, leaving the Rosemont station and you're at this hotel, because it's like right across the street from the Donald Lee Convention Center.
Okay, so you're even familiar with that specific hotel, is what you're saying.
Right, because it's like down a little bit down the street from Embassy Suites, and it's like you got a whole bunch of hotels, and across the street around the Donald Lee Convention Center. I know about the Donald Lee Convention Center because I go there every year to see the World of Wheels auto show. You know, that's the auto show, you know, where they have a whole lot of race cars and rods and all the tricked out stuff. They have it at the Donald Lee Convention Center in Rosemont.
Right. Well, I want to ask you this specific question that's been bugging me since the beginning of this, since I first heard the tricklings of what was going on before I move on to the third question with Justin. Now, we know where Rosemont is. We know the majority of what happens in that area as far as business and commerce is concerned. It has to do with that freaking airport, O'Hare, okay, or the casino that's, like you say, a few miles away. Now, here's my question. And maybe I don't completely understand the dynamic, but what are niggas from the west side of Chicago doing all the way up there to throw a hotel party? They couldn't find no hotel by where they live. My question was, why were they up there to begin with? That's what, if there's a conspiracy, that's what I'm trying to figure out. What was their purpose for going all the way up there?
Right, you're not alone, because that's what I'm trying to figure out too. Because all of these kids and stuff who were there at the hotel, they weren't from the west side of Chicago.
Right.
How do you know about a hotel all the way in Rosemont, Illinois for? What are you doing at a hotel all the way in Rosemont, Illinois? I couldn't figure that out to save my life.
Exactly. For those of you who are familiar with Los Angeles, say Justin. Justin, you still there?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me, you're familiar with the LA area, right?
Yeah.
Okay, what is from what you know, what would be 20 miles, just to give people a better idea of what we're talking about? Because a lot of people outside of Chicago don't realize how far away this hotel was from Chicago and the hood that these kids were from. It's not like they went downtown, which is only a few blocks from the west side of Chicago. What is 20 miles north of Los Angeles, would you say?
I'm no expert on distances, but I could probably wager it's about maybe San Francisco, the border of San Diego. It's close to you're not even in the city anymore. You're going into another sector of the state.
Mm-hmm. Right. So do you know any major suburbs or cities north, like is Pasadena south or north of Los Angeles, would you say? Or do you know?
I'm wagering toward north. Like I said, I'm not really
Okay. I'm sorry. I think I'm pretty sure that San Bernardino, and those of you who are familiar with this area, I know Keisha's probably gonna get me, but for those of you who are familiar with California, I'm pretty sure that San Bernardino and Santa Barbara are north of LA. So you're basically talking about the equivalent of someone that lives in South Central going all the way up to Santa Barbara or San Bernardino to throw a hotel party. I mean, completely out of their head. And people say, well, they have a right to go up there. I'm not saying that they don't have a right to go up there. What I want to know is they're not up there on official business. They just up there on some ratchet. They just up there on some ratchet mess just to throw a hotel party. Heck, when I'm in Chicago, I can go to a hotel right here where my parents live, the La Quinta, which is, there in Riverdale. There's one right up there in Calumet City. I can go to that one. Why would they be that far north is what I'm trying to figure out. So, I don't know. It puzzles Roosevelt. It puzzles me. Anybody else in Chicago, when you really internalize that, that's the question that people should be asking, if you ask me. But moving on to the third question here, Mr. Justin, and this kind of piggyback on the question number 2. Is Black social media hypocritical for fixating on this story while ignoring the tragic homicides of hundreds of other Black victims that are usually killed by other Blacks in Chicago and elsewhere?
Absolutely not. I mean, come on. You can't just act as if those shootings matter just because, there are people dying and being slaughtered. I mean, come on. Human rights. Never heard of that. Yeah, they're definitely hypocritical. But again, it goes back to this idea that if you see something on the TV screen more so than another thing, you become more fixated on it. So, for example, you could make the argument that a lot of the reason behind people believing in the Black Lives Matter myth came from most of those shootings being reported more so than a black-on-black crime. Right. And thereby convincing those who don't go and look up numbers or have any actual, facts that aren't being reported day in and day out to spin this narrative in their head that suddenly their biggest oppressor is some bad officer. When in reality, if you're African American, someone looks like you.
Mhm. Right. Okay. So, Mr. Roosevelt, what do you think about that? Is Black I mean, you've been in Chicago longer than me. I'm from Chicago 21 years, but I moved down to Central Illinois and have been here for the last 10 years. Of course, I know about Chicago. I visit up there several dozen times a year. But you being closest to all the action, is Black social media hypocritical for fixating on this story while ignoring the tragic homicides of hundreds of other Black victims that are usually killed by other Blacks in Chicago and elsewhere?
I mean, I think it is something, like I said, of course it's something, I've marched in anti-police protests and police brutality, protests and boycotts with groups like Black Lives Matter, New Era Chicago, New Black Panther Party, the Chicago Communist Party. I've marched with all of these groups. But, and I do believe in something, and what they were saying that Black Lives Matter, but at the same time, that all lives matter. Not just this one girl.
Absolutely.
That I should be concerned about. Because, it's like a month ago, I would say. This is the boy, I had just gone to the store. And then I crossed the street. I got back in my house. Then I sat down to watch the TV. All of a sudden, I heard 8 gunshots. And then a pause and like 4 more. And then so I went outside, almost like the whole neighborhood went outside and ran down to the corner. And it was just something over there, something who had just been shot several times. So the police came, ambulance came and took him away. Even though he was still living, all of us kept hollering at him to stay awake. Yeah. But when I got back home that night, they had all these balloons and posters and everything up saying, rest in peace. So I presume that he did pass away. Now that's the story I did not hear about on the news or anything. Out to me and us in our neighborhood. Nobody else knows it. Like I said, everybody was fixated on this story because there was a Facebook Live video, and you have some people caught the news, and you had a whole lot of these other activists, some who I know personally, who did get involved. And they put shine a light on this thing and made this whole story viral. I don't believe the life of this girl is any more important than any life that was lost, even the boy who was kicked around my house, because I believe that all lives matter, and I don't believe that whether it's mainstream media, whether it's social media, or, any kind of media and everything that you could name, that we should just be fixated always totally on one particular story. And then they also added the conspiracy in there to blow it up, to maybe make it look like a race thing. 19-year-old black girl possibly was raped or killed by maybe possibly a white, employee and stuffed in the freezer. So, they wanted to throw a race thing in there. And a whole lot of this kind of stuff, even one of my friends believes, a whole lot of this kind of stuff is used. And certain stories are fixated on to possibly one day cause a race war within this country. So that's why it started a whole lot of stories that are certain things you never hear about, but yet some things you do, because some things are made and designed by the mainstream media to rile up the tensions most in people to, cause certain things and to do certain things and possibly cause a race war in this country. And if you look at the whole thing spiritually, that, once, a race war started in the country, it started in the whole world, and, people are fighting each other, and there's a civil war or revolution, then it's a possibility that maybe, one world government leader, like an antichrist figure, can rise to bring order out of chaos. So if you look at the whole thing, that's what it's designed to be about. Even though it's a small thing, it goes according to a much bigger plan. I've been focusing just on one story.
Right. It's funny, right before we move to the fourth question, I was pretty much convinced that this whole thing, with this blowing up in the media and people believing she was set up and killed, I was convinced it was a farce from the moment that they said that a Cook County autopsy had not been able to find any signs of foul play. And the reason why I say that is because Chicago has led the country for the last half a decade in homicides. These coroners that work at the Cook County Medical Examiner's office, they see all types of murders every day, all day, every day. They probably do 5 murdered corpses a day, okay? If this girl had been strangled, shot, stabbed, anything outside of perhaps being drugged or poisoned, which again will come out in the toxicology reports, they would know about it. They would be able to see it. And so that right there let me know that, the story that was being blown up on social media was not what was actually, was not probably actually what was the truth in this case, which sadly is usually the case when it comes to black people, because you have a lot of Negroes that believe in the Illuminati and Tupac was killed by the Illuminati and all this bullcrap. A lot of niggas can't even spell Illuminati. But anyway, okay. Well, we'll move on to the fourth question here, moving along. Now, this is for you, Mr. Justin. Over the course of the past week, we have seen new video footage released by black youth who were there at the hotel party in Rosemont that night. Some of these videos show ratchet behavior such as drugs, alcohol, underage drinking, gang signs, and discussions about loose sex. The odds that Kenneka Jenkins did not go to the hotel to participate in the same mischievous, ratchet activities as her friends is highly unlikely. What does this say about black society and the way it allows its youth to be raised that party events like the one that led to her demise are accepted as normal, Mr. Justice?
We have a follower mentality in, I guess, a community, if you can call it that. And that's part of the reason why a lot of times, you post this, people say we're insane or we're out of our mind or crazy. And it has more to do with the fact that when you present an alternative to what people are used to, this doctrine of being, outward and places to go to and hanging around tens and hundreds of people you don't know in these large crowds, just not really caring all that much as to where you are, as long as it accomplishes this whole being around, a whole bunch of others who have the same agenda. They look at what we're presenting, which is that possibly in being this scenario, she thought about a plate of oil and creating her own demise. And, there will be those who rebuke that and get mad at us. But in doing that, they're showing us that backwards mentality is still that idea of you can't judge or assess a person posthumously. You can't, if anything they did after they've passed, and suddenly become this untouchable deity for which you will be forsaken and crucified if you make any statements against them. Really, what you and I and Rosa are trying to do is assess what caused this and also maybe, how to prevent it in the future, as we spoke of earlier. So, I'm not trying to talk your off here, but it shows that you have a culture that inherently believes giving critical analysis to something that has included such as a person's life or the events that led to their death. And even in the way we're speaking, we're not calling her out of her name, we're not assaulting her or any of that. We're just going off of what likely happened, which was she probably went there for maybe the same reasons everyone else was there. I can't see any other reason why she would go there. But nonetheless, they'll get mad. That should tell you that when we do it in this, we're not cursing about the person or calling them any other name. It tells you that no matter what you say, constructive criticism or criticism of any kind is barred. It's just, we're in Mussolini, Italy. We can't have freedom of speech. Right. And that's part of the reason why, you had that channel flagging thing a couple of months ago. We just can't have ultimate opinion. How well we our way to mince words and not offend others. So it negatively speaks on everyone involved that, would serve to watch this and feel animosity towards us over our perceptions of this. Right.
I just want to clarify, the channel flagging thing is still going on. They actually, they actually flagged the first video that I made that went viral about this, like a couple of days after, the very first video, after a couple of days that it came out about the story and it was blown up on social media, I released the video. That was flagged down. And so I had to release another video. There was a promotional video. It went viral. That video is still up, but I had to put the original video on my BitChute channel. And then the video that I had up that was flagged down on my second alternate channel, I had to put that on the same channel that I have this discussion panel. Because, Negroes, the only way they know how to respond to a difference of opinion, which may be a very strong difference of opinion, is either through violent action, drama, threats, or trying to eliminate you as an opponent. That's the only way they know, because a lot of them, I'm not going to refer them to a certain animal that I'm thinking of, but a lot of them simply do not know how to process a difference of opinion, a difference of thought. Yeah, sure, I could be a little less vulgar in my videos, but I don't know if either of you guys are aware of this, the hypocrisy of people having my video flagged down for saying the N-word and the B-word is that there is a hood rat on YouTube right now that she is just blatantly blatantly hashtagging Kenneka Jenkins' name to gain popularity for herself. And she is just as foul-mouthed as I could imagine to be on her video, saying the B word, saying the N word all over the place. None of her videos have been flagged down. She's gained 11,000 subscribers since this whole thing has began. She's getting like 50 to 100,000 views per video, and in every single video that she makes, she puts Kenneka Jenkins' name in it. So she's basically just exploiting this issue for her own personal gain. But nobody's flagging her down because she is of the same thought process of a lot of these Getonians that believe in the Illuminati and that something mysterious happened to Kenneka Jenkins. So she's all right to say the B word and the N word. It's just like Simone 56 and those others that, orchestrated that march plot to have black men virtually assassinated on YouTube, myself included. They'll let things like twerking and, weave pulling, and world star hip hop, fighting and wannabe local rappers of different cities making death threats to each other on their respective YouTube channel. They'll let all of that stuff go. But when there's harsh, constructive criticism of black females, all of a sudden, that's a problem. And that is one of the reasons why black people, just the start of victimization, we're victims. It gets us to a point where a lot of us never want to improve because we don't feel like we have to improve because nothing is ever our fault. And people don't realize the white liberals that keep us in that situation, they have an agenda. But anyway, let me stop running you guys' ears into the ground and let's finish this up here. Mr. Roosevelt, if you're still there, question number 4 for you. I'm
still here.
Yeah, sorry guys. You know how I am when I get to run in my mouth and get worked up about something. Anyway, okay, Mr. Roosevelt, over the course of the past week, we have seen new video footage released by black youth who were there at the hotel party in Rosemont that night. Some of these videos show ratchet behavior such as drugs, alcohol, underage drinking, gang signs, and discussions about loose sex. The odds that Kenneka Jenkins did not go to the hotel to participate in the same mischievous, ratchet activities as her friends is highly unlikely. What does this say about black society and the way it allows its youth to be raised that party events like the one that led to her demise are accepted as normal, Mr. Roosevelt?
Well, like I said, I just believe it's something that, to me, these kind of party events should not be accepted as normal by the black community, white community, any community. Like I said, I saw a little bit of the, video even yesterday or something like the Facebook Live video. Here the girl is or something who has the red wig with he's wearing sunglasses for it. At midnight or something. She's in a hotel room. There ain't no sun in there. But I like her.
That girl looked ridiculous. I'm sorry.
Here she was smoking on something and drinking on something, and all. And I just think of something. Whenever you have those kind of parties, I believe that almost anything could happen. But it seems like that almost is the norm with black society. Nowadays, unfortunately, and I don't think it should be accepted.
Mhm. Right.
Yeah, I believe it's something like this, my final part. It shouldn't be accepted because come on now, you see that video, that was just a mess.
Right.
And then something. I'm in a car riding home from a birthday party, and I'm riding home to something with a young lady who I sing with in a gospel group. And even she said that she said the same thing you said. Whenever you're around these kind of people, it's something you never know. But we did put something in her drink.
Right.
But this is something on at those kind. That's part and parcel of those kind of parties. Whenever you go to that kind of stuff, that's a concept. Stay away from all of it.
Right. I absolutely agree. Amen. I saw what those kids were engaging in, and it's pretty much the same thing that happens every night, across this country, from city to city. These ratchet parties, the white kids do the same thing, but nobody seems to notice anything. There was an incident, what was that, last year, where it made national news of this white kid that he was in a sorority house during a party. I don't know if you guys heard about that. He got really drunk and he fell down a flight of stairs into the basement and hit his head falling down the stairs, and he laid there and died. None of his other friends sorority brothers that were also, fraternity brothers that were also drunk at this frat party called 911, and they let him lay down there at the basement of the staircase and basically bleed to death and suffer all night long, because he suffered a severe concussion and had bleeding on the brain. Nobody tried to help him. Nobody called 911. His body was found dead the next day by a caretaker. And it was just like, so these ratchet ass parties, they occur all the time. And what I see when I see stuff like this accepted as normal, and then people get offended to the point where they want to flag down videos and sign petitions to have, certain people taken off YouTube and want to counter protest.
It's still a whole lot of people in the black sector of YouTube. It's to the point now, golly. I mean, like you know how you were when you first started on YouTube.
Right.
You don't even say the B word anymore.
Right.
You only say something this black female expletive. You don't even say the B word anymore because somebody's going to flag it down because you called a woman the B word. But yet I've heard people like Egypt and some of these other ones and stuff, called, and this is a black woman who's Egypt I heard her call black men apes and all this kind of stuff or whatever, and their videos are never touched. I wonder why that is.
Right. And see, this is why I say that black men really should have stood up back in March before me and, the small group of us did what we did in April when we retaliated against the black feminists. This is why I said black men should have got together, especially the bigger name black male YouTubers, and did more, had a bigger response than the little thing that I put together. Because what we see is that these ratchets stick together. These feminists stick together. These homosexuals stick together. Everybody seems to stick together but us black men. It's just like David Cho said. While we're in the face of each other, arguing and bickering, trying to impress, some hood rat or some bimbo, these same hood rats and bimbos are conspiring to eliminate us as a whole. Not just the black males that, are simping for them. They're conspiring to eliminate and wipe us all off the map. And in the meantime, we're in each other's face, arguing and trying to show out in all the foolishness, like the guy that assaulted Tommy Sotomayor at the pro-black event. So, it's just a pile on against, black men with opinions. Yet you see like this hood rat that's exploiting Kenneka Jenkins' death. They're basically just as vulgar, if not more vulgar, definitely more violent than we are. They put their videos up on YouTube all the time, and unless somebody like me comes along to organize, a posse to, flag them down, nobody seems to care. But it's okay for them to do it to us. That's why
they don't think if a black woman,
Okay, so question number 5 to Justin. Given that there is a very high possibility that Kenneka was fully aware of that night's activities and had every intention to participate willingly, in your opinion, is part of what happened to her own fault?
Well, yeah, I mean, she went down there knowing what happened. And it's hard to tell Darren or tell someone else, this person deserves what they got. I'm not saying that, but there are certain situations you put yourself in that can serve to your own detriment. And if she hadn't gone to that party, I'm almost 100% sure she would have lived past the night.
Mm-hmm.
So it's frustrating to me, but that's part of the reason why we go and we, try to analyze this stuff. And a lot of times when we go and see stories of various individuals having premature demises, you'll notice a repeating pattern of this person, had they avoid going to this venue, this wouldn't have happened probably. Had they avoid doing this wouldn't have happened probably. Like the Tommy thing, we didn't get that was where he knew there was much opposition to his ideals, avoided having that physical encounter. As you said before, he was there, no one, attacked him with something more. And it goes back to that narrative of you can control much of your, the factors that come to play a part in your eventual passing by, prolonging the chance of anything catching up with you. I think she just went into the lion's den with people who weren't, in the safest environment, and, unfortunately, see the worst possible aftermath of it.
Right. They definitely didn't have her best interest at hand, that's for sure. And I will say that I have a theory that involves at least one of three scenarios that happened to this poor girl. Either A, and I think this is the most likely case, she probably died of an alcohol poisoning. She just, she had a very low tolerance for alcohol, drank probably several times the amount that her body could handle. That was probably her first time getting that, what these Negroes like to call turned up, and her body just couldn't handle it. It didn't have time to adapt. And by the time she reached the freezer, she probably just collapsed unconscious. The other scenario is that she may have went into the freezer, hit her head on something, while stumbling about, because you can see in the video footage, she's running in the walls and everything. She could have run into something and knocked herself out and, stayed in there and just froze to death. Or the third possibility is that someone either willingly or unwillingly gave her a drug, because I'm pretty sure drugs were also involved at this party, that her body couldn't process, and she either took too much of it or her body just couldn't process it, and she overdosed on that drug on top of already being intoxicated, and that's the way that she died. But anyway, I'm pretty sure that when the autopsy results come out, it's going to be one of those three. Anyway, moving on to question number 5 for Mr. Roosevelt. Given that there is a very high possibility that Kenneka was fully aware of that night's activities and had every intention to participate willingly in your opinion, is part of what happened to her own fault, Mr. Roosevelt? Roosevelt, yeah, I'm sorry, man. I can't hear you at all, bro. I hear like little droppings of your voice.
Let me say, cool. Look, I don't want to necessarily say it's her own fault that she caused her own death or whatever. But at the same time, I know that you still have to watch wherever you and who you go around.
Right.
Because sometimes you can cause something, whether you want to or not, participating, because you'll know that if you hang around certain people, there's going to be drinking and drugging, free sex, whatever it is going on. You know it's something to risk it because you're not behind it all.
Right.
Sometimes it also depends on who you hang around, whether your so-called friends have your back and have your best interest at heart.
Right.
Because if somebody stripped something in her drink, I mean, it's bad that these people who she was around didn't see it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's a shame that they didn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the thing is, usually if you hang around a bunch of friends, they know I don't drink. So they know even if I had one. But look, because I remember even a few years ago at my lodge's banquet, we have a banquet every year.
Mm-hmm.
We got an open bar at the banquet. I had like 2 drinks, and one of the other guys came in and was like, "Kenneka, I was sitting at the table." He could automatically tell for some reason I was drinking.
Right.
You know, if people really, really know you, like they're supposed to. They don't know when it is and everything, and they see it going too far. If they're your friends, they're supposed to step in and stop. You're not supposed to be like to allow her walk out of the room and stumble out the room and go downstairs and walk into a priest and fall out and they're supposed to take better of you than that.
Right.
And that's the danger behind the whole thing. In these hotel parties, the people you hang out with, and therefore something happens, certain people in the family or certain people think that the friends did something wrong. Because if the friends, if these were truly her friends, somebody should have her keeping an eye on her. He had one or two too many. That she didn't get room and didn't wind up out of the room and wind up someplace.
Right. You know, this kind of goes back to me remembering, and this is usually white people that would tell me this. They say that they got so hammered, meaning so drunk, that they woke up, you know, like 3 states away and they didn't remember anything. They were joking, but what they were trying to imbue to me was that they were really, really drunk and that they were doing stuff that they didn't even remember, and, you know, they were in a place that they didn't even recognize the next morning. So it is, you know, it is understood that intoxication can, you know, put you in almost a completely subconscious state where you're not aware, you know, that you're even moving around. And so, you know, it's conceivable that, you know, like you said, the people who claim to be her friends, they were too busy having a good time and you know, drunk or whatever, not looking out for her. And, you know, I kind of get a feeling that she was probably a first timer. And by a first timer, I don't mean this was her first time getting drunk. I don't mean this was her first time partying, but I mean this was her first time at something this hardcore, this high level where, you know, kids jumping around, drugs being passed around, you know, heavy intakes of alcohol, you know, like just an all out, you know, drinking and drugs type of party. She was probably new to this level of what they call partying. And so that's probably why she wound up drinking too much and possibly having, you know, some type of drugs put in her system, either at her own will or at the malicious intent of someone else. Another thing that I saw about, and I don't know if you caught on to this, Roosevelt, was when I looked at those other 3 little hood rats that were in that room, one thing that stood out about Kenneka Jenkins from them, you know, and you know how I feel about black females, but just figuratively speaking, she was, in my opinion, she seemed to be exceptionally more of a standout in the physical looks department than those other 3 females. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I kind of noticed that a little bit or whatever.
Right.
That she kind of stood out. I mean, there's a whole lot of people at parties and everything stand out. I mean, I know if I saw something like that, but for some reason I always stand out. You know, not only for my speech and everything, they just say I act different, like I don't belong there. Because I probably don't, because you know how I was raised, you know, up in the church and, you know, not supposed to really like parties and everything. So any place I go like that, I always look like I don't quite fit in. And sometimes whenever you don't quite look like you, yeah, especially if you know, who's, you know, like you said, it could be her first time or whatever, or not or something like that. Yeah, it's easy for somebody to come along and possibly, you know, as tragic and misfortunate as it is, come along and take advantage of this.
Right. And that's what, you know, because while I said early on, even in my first video that was taken down off YouTube, I said that I don't believe the rumors and all the crap, and I was telling, you know, Negroes that they were dumb for believing it. I don't look past the possibility that because she may have been one of the more attractive young girls there at the party that one of those dudes that were, some of them looked to be in their early to mid-20s, saw her and probably wanted to have sex with her. So, because she was one of the prettier girls in there. So it is a possibility, and we won't know until the toxicology tests come out if she had drugs in her system, where someone may have tried to actually drug her, and, it could have even been possible that these kids may have rented out more than one room. And, if there is a conspiracy, that would be it there. I'm not, I'm just speculating at this point, but it could have been possible that they rented out 2 rooms, and the plan was to bring all the girls to the party room, but then take the girls out of that room that they wanted to have sex with and put them in another room, that's also been rented out nearby, after they had drugged them, get them to this room, where they were incapacitated and do what they wanted with them. Now, when we saw her stumbling through the corridors of the hotel, it could have been possible that she broke free from this attempt to get her in another room or get her to a second location. And she went, stumbling about, because I'm wondering, why did she break away from everybody else that was partying and just as drunk as she was and go stumbling down this hotel corridor in the middle of the night and wind up all the way down into the kitchen? It seemed like she was nobody else was with her. It seemed like she was moving, trying to move away from something or someone, like she knew she was in trouble. Now, again, that's just my speculation. But if there was a conspiracy set up, in my eyes, that would be it there. If they were trying to get her somewhere else and she broke free and was trying to escape but was too intoxicated to, know what was going on. What do you think about that, Roosevelt, before we move to the final 2 questions?
Well, I think that could have been the case for something that, maybe that, because it's almost like if somebody slipped you something, then maybe in your mind, that you're in danger.
Right.
If, in your mind or whatever, it's almost like your body might not follow, even though somebody just slipped you something. So maybe she was trying to get away because maybe something had happened or something that's about to happen that she was trying to get away from. And then, wound up in the, wound up in the freezer because she didn't quite make it.
Right. Right. When the mind being in an intoxicated state, it is possible that, because your brain, that self-preservation thing, the will to survive is going to take over. And, it's possible that she could have been, because when you get a chance, watch the videos, you can see her, she's clearly moving away from where the room was in a hurry. Even though she's drunk, she's running in the walls. She's trying to distance herself for some reason or another from that area. And then she winds up downstairs, and then she goes into the freezer as if she was trying to hide or something. So it could have just been that, she was just so drunk, she was just damn near sleepwalking, or it could have been that she was trying to move away from danger. But, to be that drunk and in a place where you trust other people that are just as drunk as you, I don't see why there would be a reason for you to move out of that area completely by yourself in the middle of the night. Unless something
happens. Something happens. Right. Because these so-called friends of hers are not talking.
Right.
So therefore, a lot of people actually believe that some of these so-called friends might have known something or know more than what they're saying, because a whole lot of them, they're not talking. Right. So if you didn't know anything, then you shouldn't have a problem in talking, but if everybody is quiet, then you automatically, it's only normal to automatically assume the worst. But we know something happened up there.
Right. It's just, the same way that I told Negroes that, the rumors about, what was going on in the Facebook Live video was a bunch of crap. I just thinking about it now, I just can't see a reason, because if you know anything about human behavior patterns, there's certain things you're going to know. If a girl or a guy are comfortable in a situation surrounded by other people that they consider friends, and they're all doing the same thing, they're all going to stay in basically the same area. Why would one of them just come stumbling out of that area, in the middle of the night, it went with all those other people in that room? Why would one of them just come stumbling out and just go down a hotel corridor completely by herself? And that doesn't mean that someone murdered her and put her in the freezer. We know that's not the case. But did something happen before that? That's something that, obviously we won't know at least until the toxicology reports or the autopsy come out. But anyway, moving on to the sixth question, to Justin. Recent FBI statistics showed that 69% of murder victims in the United States are directly or indirectly involved in criminal activity. Do black victims of homicide sometimes share the blame for their demise? This kind of piggybacks off of the other question, but it's more in general. What do you think, Justin?
Given that we know there is this culture of, I don't want to say gangster mentality, but kind of an interest in doing the more backwards forces in life, such as, not being education, discouraging education on the part of other blacks, and really kind of a backdrop of not seeing upward progress in the traditional, if you do a job, you focus on improving your own life. I wouldn't be surprised if, some of these homicides are that way, because you go back and you look at the Tyson Lee case. We have this little boy that has nothing to do with anything revolving around who his parents are, and then you see his father, the gangbanger, and apparently his killing was in retaliation over, his father's ties. And it goes to, it's kind of, I guess that's what this reminds me of, that question, but it also connects to the idea of who you know is more to your downfall, and also that tie thing that you spoke of, where, the percentage, I would say that's part of the logic behind it. A person doesn't necessarily have to, by and large, just go out and look for trouble, but because they're involved with trouble in some other way, they get these fatalities, unfortunately.
Right. We see that in Chicago every day. I guarantee you 90% of the black-on-black crime, and we already know that just from what we hear on the news, is, one gang rival or one, rival drug dealer shooting at another one. And whether or not he hits his target is, up to, how good his aim is. But the fact is, it's one criminal trying to attack another criminal, whether it's some personal vendetta or over turf or, gang initiation or whatever. So, throwing the same question over to you, Mr. Roosevelt. Recent FBI statistics show that 69% of murder victims in the United States, no matter the race, are directly or indirectly involved in criminal activity. So, but since we're referring specifically to the black community, do black victims of homicide sometimes share the blame for their demise, in your opinion, in general?
I believe that. Like I said, that kind of sounds insensitive again. Mm-hmm. But I believe some black victims of crime or whatever it is sometimes do share the blame in their demise, especially when you know better. Like I'm trying to do with my godson. He knows there's something good. I taught him to smoke weed and smoke. And want to be 16 and drink and bring all of these, meet all of these weird girls and stuff for Facebook. I kind of tell them the dangers in certain things. When you know to do good and yet you don't, this kind of stuff happens. Somebody who's been down that road, somebody who's trying to warn you, to go a different way, you still keep on going.
Right.
I believe that especially with people that you have, I think that God has placed people in everybody's life.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, if you had a that person in your house is trying to guide you to something else you. But yet, you know, somebody like Sean Pitt, we have you tell you don't need to be doing such a thing. You don't need to be hanging out with so-and-so. You know, somebody's trying to tell you, you just keep on going. So I think that's what makes it worse when you don't take heed to what is being said, because at that point, you know, you're only hearing, you're not really listening. Because if you are listening, you make a whole different turnaround.
Right. And you know, going off of what you said, and I know you're more aware of this than I am, because like I said, you've been in Chicago longer than I have, and you're on the south side. Am I correct? Correct me if I'm wrong. You're on the south side, right, Roosevelt?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. And you know, something just occurred to me when you said what you said. You know, there is a culture of death amongst the black youth of our communities, not just in Chicago but across the United States. There's no more proof of this than when you go to the social media pages of these kids and you see, you know, all these rest in peace hashtags for their friends. You know, they fall victim usually to homicide, but sometimes, you know, car accidents and other manner of tragic circumstance. And, you know, everybody knows about the culture of death in the black community, but what they don't realize is that even in these dangerous neighborhoods, you know what I realized? People, and this kind of piggybacks off of the FBI statistics that say that 69% of homicides are people who are involved in the criminal underworld. There are people such as yourself, Mr. Roosevelt, that live in these, you know, in these dangerous neighborhoods, day in and day out, and you guys live normal lives. You never have any type of that trouble come your way where somebody's sticking a gun in your face or doing a drive-by on you. And I've even heard a young black lady that was the daughter of some alderman that was involved in some controversy a while back in Chicago. She said the same thing. What was that? The Pullman neighborhood, which is one of the most violent neighborhoods, or was one of the most violent neighborhoods in Chicago. She said, you know, I go to work and school every day, come home. Yeah, we hear gunfire, but I'm not in constant fear for my life like there's a bullet for every inch of block. But see, that goes to show it's all on how you know, all on your perspective and how you choose to live your life, what your lifestyle is. A lot of these people getting killed are being killed because they're choosing to involve themselves in these types of, you know, activities, either directly or indirectly, or hanging out with people that are involved in these types of activities. Very few of these shootings are random, okay? A lot of them are targeted, whether they hit the target or not. I mean, you know, you and a lot of people, you know, you guys, you know, you live there just like anywhere else in America. That doesn't mean it is not more dangerous to live there. But the fact is, because you don't involve yourself in that type of activity, just like I don't, just like Justin doesn't, you're not at higher risk. Just like a person that smokes all their life, they're at higher risk of lung cancer than someone who doesn't smoke cigarettes. You see what I'm saying? So,
yeah.
Right. What do you think about that, Roosevelt?
Yeah, I mean, I don't involve myself in that kind of activity or something. So, I mean, I might have had my ups and downs maybe like anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I've never involved myself in like the whole gang thing and drinking and smoking and, you know, that kind of stuff. You know, stuff my godson is doing, stuff that I warned him about doing that, you know, he shouldn't be doing.
Right. Right.
So, I mean, sometimes you do that kind of stuff, and you know, the numbers game, it catches up with you, and you make yourself more of a target.
Exactly. And that's, you know, that's why I kind of started to rethink that whole thing about the dangerous parts of Chicago, you know, Pullman, you know, Inglewood. There's just so many dangerous neighborhoods, you know, Logan Square, Little Village. But the fact is, the majority of people that live in these high crime neighborhoods, they live.
I think it depends on how you live your life, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a person that is being, in a sense, victim of crime. Like, you could be on the bus stop or something. You be next to somebody who is here, look for you could get as an innocent person, shot in the drive-by or whatever.
Right.
That's the biggest thing I'm afraid of.
Right. Now, what is that? What is the exact name of the neighborhood that you live in on the south side?
I'm in the Ashburn neighborhood. I'm right off of 79th and Chelsea, and close to Fort City Mall.
Right. And so, is it? I mean, my theory, is it correct though that even though there's probably a fair amount of gang and drug violence there, most of the people that live there just they just work and go to school or whatever, just like everybody else, because they don't involve themselves in that type of activity, right?
Yeah, because a lot of people out there like are hardworking, working homeowner type of people, just trying to work and trying to strive for goodness,
Right. And so then it goes back to what we were saying in this Kenneka Jenkins case, which is basically that, when you put yourself in certain situations, when you involve yourself with certain types of people and certain types of activities, you heighten the chances of, something serious happening to you or someone just by association. You know how they say guilt by association. So I'm not saying that the girl should have died, or deserved to die.
No.
Right. I'm not saying that, but all I'm saying is, had she, I said this, me and Brother David Carroll, we talked over email about this a couple of days ago, and I told him, I said, had she been her little ass at home, sleep in a warm bed, like a good little girl, she wouldn't have been there, and this wouldn't have evolved into the tragedy that it was.
Yeah, because what is she going out at 19 years old for at a hotel in Rosemont, Illinois? I'm sure she probably don't even know about.
Right.
Where is she going?
Right. Hey, the other thing that occurred to me, Roosevelt, as far outside of her, not only from her mother and family, but as far away from Chicago as she was, say if someone was trying to rape her or murder her in that hotel, had she ran out, into the street or whatever, she would have had, outside of calling 911, she would have had no way to get in contact with, her family. Like say she left her phone. She's all the way up there, all the way up north. She couldn't run home, she couldn't trust anybody to take her home. What could she do but just run out into the street? And see, that's why I'm glad I don't have kids, because kids don't think. They just do what they see their friends doing, not realizing the dangers, just like you said, not realizing the risks, not realizing that this might not be the best thing for them, not even having a contingency to, what if this happens or that happens, what am I going to do? How am I going to be in communication with, people who know and care about me? The people that knew and cared about her didn't even know where the hell she was. It took the people who claimed to be her friends to actually call her mother and tell her mother that she was missing and tell her mother where they were. Her mother had to come all the way from the west side, all the way up to Rosemont to investigate this case. When the fact of the matter is, this girl should have at least told someone who was close to her, who actually knew and loved her, where she was going. See, that's the other problem. A lot of these kids that turn up missing, they go off with other people, and people, their family members, their loved ones don't even know where the hell they are. And that's why it takes police so long to locate them or locate their bodies. You know what I'm saying? So,
I get it.
Right.
Because her mother probably didn't know where she was.
Right. Right. She's all the way 20 miles north of Chicago. So
that's way out of her territory.
Right. So say somebody had kidnapped her from the hotel and took her off somewhere and, murdered or dumped her body. Her mother and her friends didn't see it. Thank God this happened at a hotel where they could at least locate the body and give the family some closure quickly. Because had this actually been an obvious murder, they wouldn't have even known where to find this girl. They wouldn't even know where to start looking for her. And she would have been missing for weeks and weeks, months and months until her body, wound up being found in a landfill some damn where, like a year later, which happens in a lot of cases. So, moving on to the final question here, guys, and then I'm going to let you guys go. Mr. Justin, whether accidental, natural causes, or malicious, in your opinion, what lesson can Black American youth take from this tragic story of the death of this young girl, Kenneka Jenkins?
Yes, I understand why they can't just go in small groups and, they'll see a movie or go to each other's house or somewhere that's not filled with a large number of individuals. I think it has more to do with the number than anything else, because you can vet out 2 or 3 people. You can say this person doesn't seem that they'll do this, or you can keep more of an active watch on a smaller group. So I just think it has more to do with, as Social said earlier, you need to inform, if you're that age, parental figures where you're going. Tell whoever that you think cares about you. And just stay out of these large groups that are in these environments. I mean, the Democratic National Committee dinner will start to lose over here.
Amen. I agree. Okay, so Mr. Roosevelt, same thing back to you. The 7th and final question. Whether accidental, natural causes, or malicious, in your opinion, what lesson can Black American youth take from this tragic story of the death of this young girl, Kenneka Jenkins?
Well, I basically believe the next one, because you probably got some youth, hopefully, listening to this channel and going to listen to this podcast. But I'm going to tell, this is not a message to me, you, and Justin, because I think all 3 of us, by us being our age, hey, we understand it, we get it. So whatever I see now is going to be the youth of America. I'm going to talk to them the same way I talk to my godson. And the 2 words I'm going to start off with is just stop. Stop drinking. Stop fighting. Stop doing all this stupid on social media. Stop cussing. Stop being rebellious. Stop participating in criminal activity. Stop doing all this stuff. Stop hanging out with the wrong crowd. Stop being foolish. And you should start by going to school, go to church, even start listening to people who are older than you, who have been down the same road and know the pitfalls of mistakes and know the problems of things that can happen. Even my understand that, you are it's not fun. And it's not kind of way that we want to stop your fun or anything like that, because we had fun when we were younger too. But you also got to keep in mind that these are different days, and these are also different times. The stuff that was going on now, back in my day, it wasn't going on because one thing is we did not have social media.
Yeah.
To influence us to stop doing certain things. So also too, have your own mind. Stop following after the crowd. Stop following all of this stupidness that all your friends are doing on social media. And stop going to all these kind of places and hotel parties and participating in certain things that you should not participate in just because you want to grow up and be so interested to be an adult. Trust me, to be an adult and be out every single day working and playing music, it ain't pretty. But then you see the just the aspect of it. And listen, truly, not only here, but listen to all of us older people who have been down that same road. Because even though certain things that we have to tell you, it might seem rough, it might seem harsh. Keep always keeping in the back of your mind that your parents and that your grandparents and even soldiers and, people in your life, we do love you very, very much. And we don't want to see anything happen to you like this tragedy here. And I believe that's some of the lessons that we can take away from it. It's just stop.
Well said. Very well said. Just to remind my audience, before I get to the final thoughts here, and I'd like to thank everyone who participated, my panel discussion members, Mr. Roosevelt and California Kid, JD. I'd also like to remind the listening audience that you can find all of my hard-hitting content, including my final commentary, on my bitshoot.com channel, which the link will be down in the description box of this video. If I forget to put it in the description box, which I often do nowadays because I'm always on the move, working and, handling business and whatnot, so I just kind of release videos on the go. Please remind me in the comment section, and I will more than gladly put the link to my BitChute channel down there. As I've said, over the course of the last several months, I'm transitioning over to BitChute because of the hypocritical, favoritized YouTube censorship that's going on over here. So if you want to hear my uncut, uncensored content as I used to make and produce last year and the year before that, please go over to my BitChute channel. Now, I want to get you guys final thoughts on this entire issue of the Kenneka Jenkins case, what really happened, and why does Black America care so much? Final thoughts, starting with you, Justin.
It's another sad tale that could have been avoided, and it really just shows that when together, we're referring to African Americans, we can be a very large threat to each other. Because even if a person ends up killing her intentionally, that theory of someone slipping something into her drink, all the more solidifies the idea that she had been by herself, she had been at home, if she had stayed away from what I'm guessing she perceived as the popular crowd, this would have never happened to her. So hopefully convinces people to not go out and do these same things. But I ultimately feel what's probably going to happen is you'll have the same group of people who wouldn't do this continue to not do it, while the same people who would have done this will continue to do it. They'll think they can get away and, be the lucky ones who things happen. I mean, in reality, it can happen to anyone who chooses to put themselves in that situation, unfortunately.
Exactly. Well said. Well said. Okay, final thoughts, Mr. Roosevelt. Go ahead.
First of all, Brian, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity. It's good being on with you and Justin, the California Kid. And, basically, I kind of had my kind of thoughts there.
Yeah, I kind of figured that. Yeah, the last question.
I really believe, like I said, everything I can say is, I hope that all the facts do come out, and I hope that it is true. Justice by the rape kits and toxicology tests are done. That we do find truth as to what happened. But hopefully, this will serve as a lesson to other teenagers that age that you can't do anything you want to do. You can't vote every single place you want to go. And you can't just hang around any place that you want to hang around. You drink anything you want to drink and smoke anything you want to smoke. Because anytime you participate in that kind of activity, this is what could happen. So this should serve as a teaching tool and a teachable moment. I think not only the teenagers, but to all of us, because, you got some adults who our age, maybe even older, who do some of the same stupid stuff because some old people never grow up as well. So let this be a teachable moment to all of us to watch whatever it is, where we go, and what we do. And, also too, watch yourself, take care of one another, take care of your friends. And I don't know about you, but I put this in here as far only this is just for me. Always just keep that first. That's all I can say.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well said, well said. The only thing that I'd follow that up with is by saying that, you know, I'm not entirely, I will say this, I'm not entirely convinced that anyone did anything to her, but it would not surprise me if there was not at least an attempt to maybe do something with her that she objected to. What I will say is this, though. Someone is likely going to be charged in this case because I just had an epiphany. You know, she was 19 years old. She was obviously drunk, which means that she was not of legal age to drink. So even if there were no drugs involved and no one slipped anything into her drink, the fact that she was drunk meant that someone over the age of 21 bought alcohol, okay, for these underage kids, okay, and that person at the very least, when they're found out, when they're found, they're likely going to be charged with, at the very least, buying alcohol for minors, which at the very most, if it's found that she died of alcohol poisoning because her body simply couldn't tolerate it, they're going to be charged with manslaughter. So someone is going to get charged in this case, whether there was an intent to do something malicious to this girl or not. But like you said, Mr. Roosevelt, well, like Justin said, this is a tragic case. And like Mr. Roosevelt said, the cure is in the prevention. Just like my father also would say, don't put your...
Anyway, thanks so much, guys, for participating. Thank all of you here on YouTube, as well as my BitChute channel for listening. And I will see you guys later.